What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay here to talk some Packers on this glorious Sunday, February the 2nd, as we're getting ready for another work week here. I don't know what it is, Tim. I'm excited about this week coming up, man. The weather's cracking down here a little bit. We're going to be in the 60s all week. I got a big brush pile I got to burn. I'm looking forward to that. A little bit of property to clean up. It's going to be a good time, man. How you doing this evening?
Man, I'm ready to go. It's going to be a great week, get these stupid Pro Bowl games over with, get on to the real stuff. And, we'll be ready to go in the great words of the new Bears coach, right?
Get ready to go.
There you go. Exactly. Let's dive into those Pro Bowl games real quick and just hit it before we move on. Just a shout out to our three representatives here, and Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, and Rashawn Gary, obviously out there repping the G at the Pro Bowl. Some really cool content. Go check it out at Packers.com. You can check it on their Twitter. I would play it, but there's some music in the background, probably trigger a copyright. But definitely go give it a like, follow, all that good stuff because, man, it was I love it. Tim, me personally, I like this more than the Pro Bowl because you get some kids involved too. Like you had Peyton Manning's son was out there with the guys winging it around, little flag football. You've got the dodgeball game, all that stuff. I think it's just a cool way to acknowledge, hey, these are the most popular players, right? Not necessarily the best players. I think they pick the most popular players out of the pool of best players is kind of the best way to describe it. But I think it's kind of cool that they've went this direction rather than just wasting everybody's time with the Pro Bowl itself,
And I would agree with that part. Like the Pro Bowl game itself is what I'm talking about, right? That's been a lost cause for the better part of 20 years. It is what it is. But, the stuff they do leading up to it is pretty interesting. It gets people involved and, gives fans a unique opportunity to, interact with these players. It was really cool to see Josh Jacobs on the trivia spot the other night, getting all the questions right. I don't know if you caught that. Him and Jared Goff up there, and Josh Jacobs could not be stumped with NFL trivia. He was 100%, which was awesome. But it's cool. It's a chance to get to see these players as as human beings, not just athletes. And it's kind of a unique time of year. But the Pro Bowl itself, we all know it's just not what it used to be, man.
Yeah, and to the best of my knowledge, they've done away with it altogether. I haven't even looked to see if they're still playing it. I think they replaced it with kind of the flag football game that they did today.
Right.
And, yeah, when I was a kid, it was a big deal. Like, I remember I could not wait to watch the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, because they would try, right?
Yeah.
You had guys calling flea flickers and, they were trying to win that game, and it was a big deal to go down to Hawaii every year and play. But, it's a little different now.
And then the Sean Taylor hit, of course, that's the one that everybody was like, okay, what are we doing here? When he just I think it was it the punter? They ran a fake punt or something. He just laid him out. Everybody was like, okay, we don't need this. That's when it kind of went down. Yeah, there you go, Chuck in the chat. Sean Taylor sent that punter to the heavens. If you guys never got a chance to watch Sean Taylor play, obviously a life cut way too short. And I know he wasn't a perfect human being, but what sucks about that whole situation is he had finally turned the corner and straightened his life out, had a baby girl who's now grown up to play soccer just like her mom. And, if you get a chance to look at to go watch A Football Life, Sean Taylor, if you're not crying by the end of that, there's something wrong with you. It had me in tears. It was just so good, man. And then it showed his brother, which I don't know if his brother stuck with football, his little brother, but just a really cool story. And it's bittersweet because, like I said, the man turned his life around, and then obviously had somebody break into his home and take his life. Ultimately, it's amazing you can't say certain things on YouTube. If I were to say what happened to him, they would probably take the stream down, which is just wild to think.
We'll just call it a gigantic mess of evil, basically, that walked into his world and changed everything. But you're so right, man. I miss those old days, man. When my favorite part of the Pro Bowl was watching the top tier receivers go against the top corners, and just seeing them basically playing like cover one man all day, or too deep, man coverage, just one-on-ones galore, and it was just fun.
Really was, man. Also in the news here, the Raiders have this is Dane Brugler quote tweeted Adam Schefter, who Adam Schefter tweeted out, back to the NFL. Former Eagles head coach Chip Kelly is being hired as the Raiders offensive coordinator per me and Pete Thamel. I think ESPN. Dane Brugler quote tweeted that and said the Raiders have 2 third-round picks. Which one will they use to draft Will Howard? So obviously the OC at Ohio State after that national championship, and Chip Kelly, who's no stranger to the NFL, is going back to the NFL, and he's going to be the Raiders offensive coordinator. That's very interesting, and don't be surprised if Will Howard climbs up some boards now or some mock drafts, because you never know, man. Chip Kelly may say, hey, look, even if they draft a quarterback there with their first round pick, they may still go get Will Howard as kind of a backup plan and someone who will know all the terminology, the entire playbook inside and out if the Raiders decide to allow Chip Kelly to have full control over that offense, which I honestly think they will, because Pete Carroll, being a defensive-minded coach, is going to be the new head coach out there with the Raiders. I think this is interesting, Tim, and I just wanted to mention it because it shakes some things up through college football. It also puts another face back in the NFL here in Chip Kelly, who was one of those kind of, I don't want to say polarizing, but he was definitely one of those figures when he was in Philly that one second he was the hottest commodity, the next second get this guy out of the NFL,
Right. And like what you said with Pete Carroll, coming back to the NFL after a little hiatus and, being a defensive-minded dude. I mean, it makes perfect sense that he's going to let Chip Kelly have the keys and just kind of, you run the offense, I'll run everything else kind of scenario. I'm sure Pete's going to have input, especially with that defensive mind going up against, his own offense and the practices and things like that. But I think that hire clearly makes a statement that Chip Kelly's going to run that offense. And, regardless of what they decide to do, Will Howard or not, I think there's a pretty good chance they take a quarterback regardless of who it is. And it'll be interesting to see how things play out there in Vegas.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. It's I love this time of year too, because there's new faces, there's new, everybody's taking a different approach to how they're building their organization, both through building the roster and the coaching staffs. It's just a lot of fun, man. This time of the year, I get more excited really about what's going on around the league as opposed to during the season. It's all about the tape. It's all about what are the Packers doing next? What adjustments are we making? Those type of things. Who's performing? Who's underperforming? Where the answer to those questions might be. In the offseason, it's, man, you got to drink from a fire hose, but it's just every day there's something else. And if you know where to look, if you don't know where to look, and it's just, this is a boring time of the year, and it's on to the next sport, right? But again, there's just so much to cover across the league. Let's go to the Patreon group real quick. As I think we had Drew had a couple of comments in here. He said, Drew in the Patreon group said, 4-3 outside linebacker Carson Schweisinger, UCLA, is very interesting. He's very good at blitzing A-gaps, has fantastic hips. Hey, easy, Drew. I think you may have a girlfriend there. Oh, no, I'm just joking. Hips for great coverage ability, talking about the fluidity in the hips, which is a great point by Drew. If you can't flip those hips, that's one of the things they look for in those linebacker drills, the ball drills, if you notice at the combine, where you'll see the defensive coach or whoever's running the drill will tell them back, left, right, and then the ball comes, you catch it, and they're what you're watching for. The scouts are mainly looking at the hips in that situation, how fluid they are in rotating their hips, right? So he says he's got great hips for coverage ability, has great sideline-to-sideline ability. He's a pretty good tackler for his size. His downfall is he's only 225 pounds at 6'2". His lack of size can limit his ability to get off the blocks, but I really like him on day 2. So there you go. There's another name, as Drew says, Carson Schweisinger out of UCLA. The thing, if I remember correctly, and I'll see if I can look him up on my board real quick, Drew, I want to say he only had one good year, and then I think he also I don't have this information for me. If somebody would do a little research in the chat, I think he skipped something in terms of the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl or something. Seems like I remember reading something about that. But we've got Carson in the 54 spot on our board here. So again, day 2 is what Drew's saying. If he's there for day 2, meaning second, third round pick, right? Yeah. That's right there in the wheelhouse. Now, would the Packers take him that early? I don't quite know. If they have a high enough grade, obviously they would. But we did not have a 22 PFF ranking. We did not have a 23. And I think the reason being, I actually combed through some old articles and trying to figure out what happened. It wasn't injury related either, if I remember correctly. It was kind of odd. But in 24, he was the 87th best graded linebacker in college football. The PFF big board had him at 57, so right there around where we have him at 54. The consensus big board had him at 107. DJ, Daniel Jeremiah, has him all the way up to 37, Drew. So that's interesting. And the 33rd team and Kyle Krabs had him at 36 on his initial top 100. So, yeah, Carson Swasinger, Tim, we talked about him a little bit earlier in the week. He was at the Senior Bowl is what we got linked here. Now, to the best of my knowledge, the Packers didn't talk to him, but out of UCLA, that's a guy that looks like if enough teams fall in love with him, and he may go in the second round.
Yeah, for sure. One of two UCLA defenders that I've kind of had on my short list. And, like Drew's saying here is, he's very interesting, and we can talk about the size, limited ability to get off the blocks and, tackling, things like that. But he highlights it right here. Fantastic hips, great coverage ability. So here's a cover backer, basically. So you're looking to fill needs. Obviously, you're not going to expect him to, be a run-stopping monster, because you're bringing him into the fold to be a coverage backer for you in the scheme. If, in fact, the Packers are interested. We haven't really seen anything, to say that they are yet. But he is a guy that doesn't, jump off the tape, but he's noticeable, man. 80.6 grade PFF last year, played pretty good. But him and, the edge, Oluwafemi Oladejo, I'm trying to say the name, Oluwafemi Oladejo out of UCLA, his teammate there at the edge. Those are two quality defensive guys, I think, that you should keep your eye on going forward, and we'll see how the board shapes up. I don't know how aggressive the Packers are going to be with a stack backer in this draft. I just don't know if he'll be on the board when we may take one. I think we got, we talked about 3-tech and we talked about edge, even corner or receiver before we probably go to a stack backer in this draft.
Yeah. Judy says, I think he skipped the Senior Bowl. That's how I knew there was something there. Daryl says the Swasinger kid, he seems like a Packer through and through. United Bates, Swasinger will not participate in this week's Reese Senior Bowl, despite accepting an invitation. Swasinger does not appear on the roster, and multiple sources confirmed he is not in attendance. So that's maybe, at the end said, what, it's not worth it. Might hurt my stock more than it'll help. Maybe that was the case. It could have been something. Maybe something came up family issue-wise or something like that nobody's talking about, and you're respecting privacy. I definitely don't want to speculate too much on that, but for whatever reason, he was not there. So
a guy to look for in the combine then, right? Or pro day, keep an eye out for.
Yeah, definitely. And look for the interviews too, right? Like the top 30 visits, things like that, or hearing about the interviewing process at the combine and all that. Now, sure. I would say this, Bates says that was from Sports Illustrated. Can't find any reasons yet. Drew D says, sounds like an agent got involved. That would make a lot of sense, right? Yep. Like, hey, and listen, we like to get angry at agents and, lawyers, which most agents, if not all agents, are lawyers, but they're hired, they're paid to protect their client.
Yeah.
If they look up and go, hey, look, bub, you're not going to improve your stock here. All you're going to do is hurt it. I don't blame him for skipping.
And then the agent's just going to run around and tell everyone.
He was the best guy around.
What murder? All right, Drew, thank you for the comments, the questions there in the Patreon group. And we did get our draft board link sent over to everyone in the Patreon group, which is really cool. So if you guys want to join the group, you have access to our board there. Now it's locked, so you can't change anything, obviously. I'll get back in there and Tim will have broken in and gave Jaden Higgins a perfect score, right? That's what happened. But no, if you guys want to join the Patreon group and get access to that, as well as our chats and be entered into the giveaways, which, by the way, I'm still looking for David James. I sent him a DM, haven't heard from him yet. Hopefully everything's okay over there. David James was the winner of our autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. But just scan the QR code in the upper right or go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. And as long as you're a member of one of the 3 tiers, that gets you entered into the giveaways. Just a way for us to give back to those who are supporting the channel. And obviously, you get to join an awesome draft community. We're also doing a draft contest where we're going to allow all of our Patreon members to take a stab at a mock draft, and whoever has the closest mock draft to what the Packers end up doing, you're going to get a piece of autographed memorabilia too. I just got to come up with a piece for that. We've got several things over here. We're going to do other giveaways, obviously, well before the draft gets here. We try to do about 2 a month at least, so we'll be doing one here real soon. But yeah, just make sure that you're a member in that Patreon group. Appreciate y'all supporting the show in that regard. All right. Next, we had this. I just put it in our PTA group here, Tim, so I can read it on screen and show you guys. This came in from Pep Hickman, one of our loyal listeners here of the show. Been watching on YouTube for a while. He says, Clayton, I've been listening to you via YouTube and enjoy Tim and Emilio insight on draft prospects for the Packers. I have a couple of later round draft picks. I see Jackson Slater as a guard/center, similar to Gray Zabel. Watching him at the Senior Bowl practices reminds me of Elton Jenkins. That's a nice comp there. He can play either guard position and center and has really held up against the big boys. My first-round choice is Nolan, talking about Walter Nolan, if he falls, but if not, trade back and get additional picks. Do you see any other defensive line draft picks that are an upgrade from Devontae Wyatt? Check out wide receiver Kyle Williams. We actually talked about him on the morning show, right? One of the guys that DJ really thought stood out. Really good release and quickness to be a late round pick. Thanks, Pep Hickman, a 73-year-old lifelong Packer fan. Appreciate you listening to the show there, Pep. Yeah, so let's take it from the top here. Jackson Slater, Tim, you got anything on Jackson Slater you want to mention? If not, I'll pull him up on my board here.
I do not have anything on Jackson Slater. So thank you, Pep, for the heads up here. Someone certainly for me to pay attention to here. And, he's comping him to Gray Zabel, which is great because Gray Zabel, became a center 19 minutes ago, and he's like the top center in the draft. So if there's a comp here to him, I'm all for it. So what do you got on Jackson Slater? I'm all ears.
I found him on my board. I'm going to try to find him on the PFF board too, because I want to see where his snaps were.
I can't find him on PFF at all.
Ooh, that's interesting, ain't it?
Yeah,
you're right. He's not on the big board. That's interesting because he was on the big board at one point. I'm pretty sure. On my board, he never was on the PFF big board. Hopefully they'll put him on soon. So Jackson Slater, interior offensive lineman, Sacramento State. So a small school. He was at the Senior Bowl. In 2022, he was the 197th graded guard, I believe. M. Smitty says he is 6'3", 320. That's a hoss there. PFF 23, he went from 197 up to 153. And then he jumped all the way to 26 in 2024. So a huge jump there. No ranking on the PFF big board like we mentioned. He's 179 on the consensus big board, or was when we took the information down. He did not make Daniel Jeremiah's top 50, and he did not make Kyle Krabs' 33rd team top 100. So as it sits right now, I've got Jackson Slater in the 131 spot. Our board has him there. So that would be somewhere around, I want to say probably a 4th round pick. Am I thinking right, Tim? Roughly 5th round, maybe?
Yeah. Somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, Jackson Slater, keep an eye on that name there. Go do your own research on that. He said, do you see any other defensive line draft picks that are an upgrade from Wyatt? That's the tough question because, the reality is, Walter Nolan might not be an upgrade. I remember Devontae Wyatt, and this is what's so tough about the draft, guys. When we drafted Devontae Wyatt, he was hands down the best player on my board when we picked, or at least he was in that top tier. And the knock on him was, well, he's too old. And that was everyone stood on the fact that any mock draft that took Devontae Wyatt that year, there's no way Goody will take him. There's no way. And then lo and behold, Goody took him, right? So Devontae Wyatt looked solid. I was just as excited about Devontae Wyatt when we drafted him as I am Walter Nolan right now.
Yeah.
Just completely transparent. The problem is you don't know who's going to hit. You don't know who's going to truly make it. All you can do is gather as much information as possible and then pick the guy at the top of the board, and then hopefully it works out, right? That's usually how it works. So I want to preface everything with that there's no guarantee anybody's going to be better than Wyatt, right? So with that being said, though, other than Walter Nolan, I got Walter Nolan in the 21 spot, all right? So in terms of anyone else that might be quote unquote better than Devontae Wyatt, Derek Harmon.
Oh, you read my mind, Clayton. Are you looking at my screen right now?
He's the next defensive lineman below Walter Nolan for me. Now here's the thing though. Derek Harmon isn't near the pass rusher as Walter Nolan is, and he darn sure isn't near the pass rusher that Devontae Wyatt was coming out of college. But he's a much better run defender. So Could it be that Derek Harmon comes in the league and develops his pass rush game? He's already got the run game kind of down packed, and he ends up being a better defensive lineman than Wyatt. That could happen. That could definitely happen. So, yeah, in terms of that, let's go up one. The defensive lineman I have above Walter Nolan, that's with better value. Let's see. That's not an edge defender. Would be Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. I got him in the 10 spot. Tim, if Kenneth Grant slips to us somehow, some way.
Oh, yeah, we got to take him.
Man, that's he has a much higher grade than Walter Nolan now. And you guys know they were neck and neck for a while. And the reason he's got a much higher grade now, Daniel Jeremiah had him in the 18 spot. Kyle Crabb had him in the 12 spot. Walter Nolan, Daniel Jeremiah had in the 26 spot. And 33rd team had him in the 35 spot. But anyway, anybody else grab your attention, or if you want to talk about Derek Harmon, that would be – those are the two names, not named Walter Nolan, that grabbed my attention.
Well, I'm going to say Deion Walker, but since we're not making any, any predictions or anything, Alfred Collins out of Texas comes to mind too. But honestly, I think someone that, depending on how the draft plays out in the first couple of rounds, Darius Alexander out of Toledo, that's another guy to take a look at. He's kind of a dog, 6'4", 310, graded out I think he was in the 90s last year. Something like that.
Yeah, Darius Alexander was one of the talks of the Senior Bowl. I believe it was the Senior Bowl that he was at. Let me see if I can find it here. I'm just looking for the bonuses because I know Daniel Jeremiah picked him as one of his top guys. There he is there. So we got Darius Alexander in the 121 spot. Okay. He did not make Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 or Kyle Crabb's top 100. However, he was one of the players that Daniel Jeremiah said popped at the Senior Bowl. So it's pretty cool that we have access to that to go, oh, good Senior Bowl. It's a good sign, in terms of practice all the time. So there you go. Hopefully that answered all your questions there. Appreciate you for the email here, Mr. Pep Hickman, and thank you so much for being a loyal Packers fan for as long as you have, man. I always say it, and I'm always going to continue to say it. These fans, Tim, that lasted through the 80s and the 70s and the 80s, when the team was just really, really, really struggle bus. I feel like we owe our entire fandom to them because I feel like if they were not as diehard as they were, we would have really, really been screwed. I could see it being a situation that the Packers didn't survive. I mean, it took people like that in the tough times to make sure the Packers continued on, man. So
yeah, being a Milwaukee kid, man, I really respect those fans because I got people in my family that were like that basically showed me how to do it, being a little pipsqueak in the 80s and watching the team struggle. And no matter what, you show up and you root for your team and you support good, bad, great, everything in between. That's what it really means to be a fan. Anyone can be a fan when you're winning. But if you show up when you're struggling, man, that really, really shows you who the real fans are. So definitely appreciate guys like Pep and, of course, my Uncle Jim, my Uncle Mike, my dad, everybody in my family that showed me how to scream at the TV but still have hope,
Right. Exactly. All right. Chris in the chat earlier said Kyle Crabbs picked Emeka Egbuka for the Packers at 23 on his NFL stock exchange today.
Yes.
Then Maxwell Harrison, I think is how it's said, cornerback out of Kentucky at number 55. He said, Clayton, are you a fan of your Kentucky guy, talking about Harrison? So the question about Harrison, down year this year, just like Deion Walker. But keep in mind, that whole Kentucky defense just slid backwards this year. When that happens as a defense, I'm a little more hesitant to go, oh, this guy's bad at football all of a sudden. It's kind of like our pass rushers this year. We said it all year long, like, hey, guys, every one of these pass rushers just didn't all of a sudden forget how to rush the passer. The answer's on the tape. And I haven't had time to go watch all of Kentucky's tape. And here's the thing. Once I started doing this podcast and doing this live stream on YouTube, I don't have time to dive into college football the way I used to. So I've got to dedicate all my time to completely understanding the Packers as opposed to watching Notre Dame's coaching tape, watching Kentucky's coaching tape. I don't really have time. So I'm not going to sit here and BS you with, well, Harrison took a slight step back in his press man. I don't know, right? We're going off the information that we have at hand. But PFF suggests that both he and Deion Walker took a step back this year. And the fact that the entire defense did and Kentucky had such a rough year makes me think probably changed something up within the scheme that maybe didn't sit well, didn't take. So with that being said, Emeka, though, he's the second receiver on our board. So first is Tetairoa McMillan, I think is how you pronounce it. He is in the number 7 spot. He's hands down my favorite receiver in this draft. Next is Emeka Egbuka at 25. If he's sitting there when we pick at 23, Tim, I would have no problem with them taking Emeka Egbuka. He was 31st highest graded wide receiver in 22, 203rd in 23, and then jumped back up to 61st in 24. The PFF big board had him at 13. The consensus big board had him at 23. DJ has him at 25, right there in that sweet spot where we're going to be picking. And then the 33rd team, Kyle Krabs, had him at 33, obviously. So I would be okay with Emeka Egbuka at 23. Would you have any problem with that, Tim, if they decide to go that route?
No, unless, like some of my guys are still on the board, not saying Jaden Higgins is going to be on the board, but, I like Jalen Royals. I like, really Pat Bryant. I like Savion Williams. I like Ja'Cory Brooks. I like Ty Felton. I mean, there's a lot of receiver talent here for sure. But, bottom line, the kid from Ohio State is not a bad look. Absolutely. I got no problem taking Egbuka at all. And as far as, taking a look at Maxwell Harrison, the kid from Kentucky, there is a part of me that thinks, like, can we roll the dice and, Carrington Valentine all over again here in the draft and get another kind of under the radar DB out of Kentucky that might pop here in this defense?
Right. There's a little bit of precedent there for Kentucky. It's almost like a pipeline school for the Packers, no doubt.
Yep.
Maxwell Harrison. So we've got him in the 110 spot. So taking him at 55, according to my board, seems like a reach, but let's see how he got to 110 on my board. In 2022, we did not have a grade. In 2023, he was the 62nd highest graded cornerback. In 2024, PFF graded him as the 484th cornerback. It'd be different if he was in the 200s, right? I mean, he had a bad year last year. He really did.
Yeah.
But, comparatively speaking across the board. The PFF big board had him at 74. So if you were just going off the PFF big board after the college football season ended, you would say, man, that's still a reach, according to them. The consensus big board had him at 62. That's a little more palatable at 55, right? If he's 62 on the board. Senior Bowie really stood out in practice all week, so he did get a bonus there that raised him up. DJ has him at 44, so Daniel Jeremiah says 55 is perfectly fine. And, of course, Kyle Krabs has him at 57, and he thinks it's fine. So, now keep in mind, if I remember correctly, Kyle Krabs actually had us taking another corner in his first mock. I could be wrong. Nope, he had us taking Trey Amos. So, this is why it's important, and this isn't a dig at Kyle Krabs. I think he's one of the best in the business. Me personally,
he was the best guy around.
He actually helped found, I think it's the Draft Network, and he's been covering the draft long before I have. Promise you that. But when you see 2 drafts where you take a cornerback within the first or 2 picks, right? Like he took Trey Amos in his first mock draft with the 23rd pick, and then in this mock draft here recently that he did with the stock exchange, NFL stock exchange, he takes one in the second round. Kind of feels like he's trying to force a cornerback into, the Packers draft picks there. I could be wrong. But, again, Daniel Jeremiah would have no problem with Maxwell Harrison going at 55. So, anything you want to add to that conversation there, Tim, with Maxwell Harrison?
I'm going to be honest. If DJ's got no problem, I don't have a problem either. I'm just going to go ahead and defer.
And that's where people will call me a yes man. But I'm telling you guys, it's just like former NFL players, former NFL coaches. I don't care if they were the worst coach in the league. If you make it to the NFL, you got to know what the hell you're talking about and what you're doing. If Daniel Jeremiah, former NFL scout, says he's worthy of it, who am I to say my board's right and he's wrong? Again, this is just – I like to create a board that's like safe-proof. It's like it's geared up for if there's a player graded higher than another one on my board, it means they're a much safer pick. It doesn't necessarily mean, wow, this guy's got superstar potential. Could be a bust, but superstar potential. It's geared more toward I want to know if someone is flawed, and if they are, I want it to push them down the board. That's kind of how my board operates. So, interesting comment there, though, Chris. Appreciate you. Robert in the house says, Azare. I still don't know how to say his name. Azare?
I think one of those two is pretty close.
All right.
I'm going to go with Azare.
Thomas, we'll call him AT, cornerback out of FSU, is the brother of Wanya, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wanya Thomas of the Cowboys played at the legendary Niceville High School in Niceville, Florida. Absolutely awesome pull there, Robert. That's good stuff, man. Florida, boy, they churn out the prospects. There's no doubt about it, man. Prince in the chat, maybe the Raiders not sold on Shedeur, going back to the original conversation we were having, Tim. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Shedeur, if he's there, you know, when they pick, obviously, where they pick number 3, I think, if he's there on the board and they have him as the top prospect in that top tier, they're going to take him. I could also see them taking Will Howard a little later in the draft, since Chip Kelly's going to be the OC. That way you've kind of got, hey, look, this guy already knows my system. He knows everything about it. Matter of fact, he could probably help teach Shedeur Sanders the offense, and Shedeur having a much higher upside. But I wouldn't be surprised if they pass on him too, Prince. If they're not sold on him, it's just going to come down to where do they have Shedeur on their board.
Are we all pretty much kind of, well, not, we can't speak for anyone else but ourselves, but do we kind of think Cam Ward's going to be the first QB taken in this draft?
You know, that's when we first started our board, right, this year, it was Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward was significantly lower. And now Cam Ward has passed up Shedeur Sanders. So you see on our board here, we have Cam Ward as the 5th best prospect. I don't know if you can see that or not, Tim, but he's 5th on our board. It'll say 6 because we got a placeholder there, so he's actually 5th. So he's the 5th best quarterback with an 11.1 score. Shedeur is 8th with a 15.6. So if we do tiers, of 5-point increments, it would mean Shedeur is actually 1 tier lower than Cam Ward, barely. But keep in mind, this is without the combine positives, right? Like if these guys come out, let's say Shedeur goes to the combine, and I don't even know if either of them will, but let's say Shedeur scores in the 9s in the RAS, right? If he does, and let's say Cam Ward doesn't even perform at the combine, chooses not to, well, guess what? That's going to be a 5-point bonus for Shedeur, which means he'll now jump up to 10.6, and he would climb over top of Cam Ward. Because, again, more information is better than less. Now, if Shedeur comes out and he scores a 7 RAS, I'm not saying he is, but let's say he does, that's only a 1-point bonus, and Cam Ward gets a 3-point bonus. Obviously, he's going to stay ahead of Shedeur in that regard. So,
right.
Both the information's in from Daniel Jeremiah in the 33rd team. The other thing, too, is Greg Cosell is going to have an opinion on these quarterbacks. Greg Cosell may say Shedeur's the real deal, and he may say, I think Cam Ward's got some work to do. If that's the case, he's going to get a bonus from Greg Cosell's opinion, and he might leapfrog Cam Ward as well. But they're close. I think they're close enough to him that you could go out there and go, hey, watch the tape. Which one fits your offense better? You know, if you've got a timing and rhythm-based offense, right, and Shedeur Sanders fits that better than Cam Ward does. If you got an RPR type offense where you're going to have him on the edge running and Cam Ward's a better athlete than Shedeur, I'm not saying he is. I'm just kind of throwing an example out that maybe Cam Ward's the guy, you know.
And watch, we're having these discussions, and it's Dylan Gabriel or Jalen Milroe goes first, you know, or something.
Yeah. It honestly feels like to me, Tim, it's going to be these two, and then there's going to be a drop off, and then it's probably going to be Jackson Dart. Like if we were to let's do
talk
this.
about a guy who had a good showing, you know, this past week, right? I mean, let's be real, looked pretty good in the Senior Bowl.
If we sort by position, okay, let's go to quarterbacks. These are now in order. You see the grades over here to the right, so they're in the proper order. Here's the order in which we have the quarterbacks. We got Cam Ward out of Miami as the top quarterback at 11.1. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado, 15.6. Jalen Milroe, 51.1 out of Alabama. Dylan Gabriel, 54.2. So there you see two quarterbacks that are in the same tier there, right? And then you got Jackson Dart at 67.7.
Here's the guy.
Here's the interesting part, though. You guys know how we got our grade. We've been completely transparent about it, right? Look at who Daniel Jeremiah does not have Jalen Milroe or Dylan Gabriel in his top 50, but he's got Jackson Dart at 41. That's interesting. So don't be surprised if Jackson Dart is taken before Jalen Milroe and Dylan Gabriel, even though those two guys are higher on our board. Again, our board isn't designed to guess the order in which the players are taken. It's simply to show you all the information and come up with a safe grade. So that's really interesting to me. And then look at the difference between him and Kyle Krabs, Tim. Kyle Krabs has him at 90, right? And he has Jalen Milroe at 67. So You never know. But and Will Howard, for example, he's got an 89.3 on our board. So he's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th best quarterback in this draft according to our board.
Wow.
Drew D in the chat. Rick Spillman said that Jackson Dart is a dark horse to get into the first round. It's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of buzz around him. I know this, man. This year was kind of a down year for him. Yeah, let's see what PFF said. PFF didn't think so, though. Look at this, Tim. You think of Ole Miss and how they didn't quite get accomplished what they want to, and that always falls on the quarterback. But in 22, Jackson Dart was the 80th best quarterback. 23, he jumped to 10th. And then this year, he was 3rd. So if you just compared strictly from PFF's rankings, Jackson Dart is the 2nd best quarterback in this draft.
I'll tell you what, he's got the first best name for a quarterback in this whole draft. I mean, gotta love a quarterback named Dart, right?
Seriously.
Throwing darts out there.
If you see his face paint too, he does kind of almost like the Braveheart, the one stripe through the eye.
Oh, I love it.
It passes.
Full on psychopath. I love it.
It passes the drip test. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, this is what is interesting about PFF's big board too. I want to mention this because this is kind of odd to me every year. Jackson Dart was the 3rd highest graded quarterback, right? But look at where PFF's big board had him, Tim. 193rd overall. Like what the hell was going on over there? And it's probably changed now. But again, I put that information in early because I want to know how the board felt when the season wrapped up, as opposed to now let's get the hot build back up, right?
And that's why we like to look at all these different, sites and different people and different perspectives, right? Because PFF is going to be polar opposite of Consistent's big board. It's going to be opposite of 33rd team, maybe the opposite of what the heck we're thinking or our favorite analysts are thinking. So, you get as much information as early as you can and then put together a great board like this. Shout out to Emilio. And of course you putting in the grind, man. This is incredible.
It's been fun, man. It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to get to our draft set up in Green Bay this year when we go live. We're going to have a projector, right? And one computer, one laptop specifically dedicated to the horizontal board. So everyone at all times will have a huge projector in the corner of the room with the horizontal board on it. And we'll be pulling those names off in real time as they're picked. It's going to be a blast, man.
We're going to be ready to go.
Get ready to go.
I'm telling you, if anybody's going to Green Bay for the draft and you like cannolis, you better get them early because there's going to be a shortage of them. We're going to have 500 in the Airbnb that we got rented. I promise.
Yeah, we might have to put like a chunk of them in the freezer and then have some ready to go. Rotate them. I'm
gonna have a couple in my pocket when we go over to Lambeau and hang out with everybody. We'll be pulling cannolis out of the cargo shorts, man.
I love it.
All right, so that's a little quarterback talk. Didn't have that on the agenda tonight, but I'm glad we hit it, man. That's fun.
I'm glad that we're doing it though, because don't put it past Goody. I'm not saying for the 2nd or 3rd round, but you never know. If somebody falls, it could happen.
You're spot on, dude. Again, and people that roll their eyes and think that's not a real thing, we drafted Brian Brohm in the 2nd round when Aaron Rodgers was our quarterback.
Yep.
So sorry. There's a chance it happens if the right guy falls. Now, was Brian Brohm the guy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But
we drafted Aaron when Brett was quarterback and couldn't make up his mind, right? We traded up to get Jay Money when Aaron was quarterback and couldn't make up his mind. Like, hey, I'll never, ever put it past any GM in Green Bay to take a quarterback at all in any given year.
No, absolutely, man. I completely agree. Completely agree. We could go in a couple different directions here. We're almost to the 40-minute mark. Let's do this. There's something I wanted to hit. Let's wrap up the Senior Bowl. Let's do that. We had a little article here that had kind of the risers and fallers. PFF put an article out. Now, you guys know I've covered Daniel Jeremiah's stuff as terms of who he thought had a good Senior Bowl and all that. Let's go to what the PFF website thinks, okay? So I'm going to share the screen here. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So PFF said these are the top performers at the Senior Bowl from each position. And this, keep in mind, this is practice all week and everything, okay? The top quarterback, Tim, Dillon Gabriel. We were just talking about, how we had these guys ranked. Dillon Gabriel is currently our 4th best quarterback in the draft, okay? So him ranking 4th, and they're saying he had a great Senior Bowl. Now, I did not give him a Senior Bowl bonus because Daniel Jeremiah did not mention him specifically. And what I need to do is talk with Emilio, talk with Tim, talk with Jacob, and see, do we need – we can't include everybody's opinion in the Senior Bowl. You know what I'm saying, Tim? Like, that's why I'm leaning on Daniel Jeremiah, because he's a former scout, and he's kind of the guy that we picked to have a big influence on our board. If we just include every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the face of the planet and who they thought had a good – this is the stuff you got to watch for. And I'm not suggesting PFF's doing this. I'm just saying there are going to be some websites that say this guy had an awesome week. And I'm telling you right now, there's politicking going on behind propping certain schools up, certain guys up. That's going on. So I think we should not add any more bonuses outside of Daniel Jeremiah, who he thought flashed, and just move it along. Now, the East-West Shrine Bowl, we went with the other NFL draft analyst. I can't remember his name on NFL.com that works with Daniel Jeremiah, because he was kind of covering the East-West Shrine Bowl. We got that taken care of. That makes sense, though, man.
It does, because like I'm looking at my chart from the Senior Bowl, and the kid from Louisville looked better to me. Tyler Shaw, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Shaw.
Yep, and we got him way down the list here. Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to, talk about quarterbacks, the only other ones I had high marks on were, of course, Jalen Milroe, and then Hennigan out of Memphis looked pretty good too. So it's like, this is take your pick. You're either going to deal with the politics, or you're going to deal with, guys like us that trust our gut, right? We're trusting who we, lean on for expertise, and then our own eyes when it comes to the tape. So, I did not have Dylan Gabriel getting any bonus points for sure after the Senior Bowl. But that's just me. What do I know?
Right. And again, I just want to run through these because it's another voice, but I want to make it clear it's not influencing our board at all, okay? Next position, running back. They said Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. Okay, Etienne especially excelled in receiving drills during the Senior Bowl, routinely getting open against linebackers. That should be no surprise, considering he was the third among SEC tailbacks since 2023 with 447 yards after the catch. So Trevor Etienne seemed to impress down there. I'm going to try to sort my board again and see exactly where we have him at as we've got the positions pulled up. Trevor Etienne. And I want to say he's related to the other Etienne that's actually in the league right now.
I was going to say, is that his brother?
I don't know if it's his brother. I'm pretty sure somebody in the chat should know. Do you guys know, is he related to the Etienne at I think he's down in Jacksonville, if I remember correctly. If you guys could help us out on that. And we have him, it looks like significantly lower, maybe. Trevor Etienne, where's he on our board? Holy cow. Yeah, so we've got him 137.3. He's like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, roughly 15th best running back in the draft. So that's interesting. And in terms of a Senior Bowl bonus, we did not give him a bonus. So Daniel Jeremiah didn't mention him specifically. So
I'm giving a running back a bonus from the Senior Bowl. It's going to be Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State. I liked him, and I liked RJ Harvey out of UCF. But Trevor Etienne, though, I mean, you can't, film doesn't lie, right? Say what you want. Tape doesn't lie, but 1 or 2 reps in the Senior Bowl is not going to be an indicator of, what you're going to do in the NFL. So I think it's worth keeping a look at a lot of these guys, but being a Packer fan, I don't think running back is on the radar for us right now.
Right. I don't either. I really don't. M. Smitty said, yes, it is his brother. So did Drew. So they are brothers. So Ollie Gordon, you mentioned him out of Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah. Ollie Gordon. Yep.
Yeah. I've got him 3 spots higher than Trevor Etienne.
Okay.
So that's where he's at.
There we go.
All right. Moving along. Wide receiver. They're saying Tez Johnson popped. And we did talk about him a little early in the week. It's just his size, that size factor, right? But Tez Johnson out of Oregon, wide receiver, we have him as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th best receiver in this draft. Okay. He has a grade of, I'm really pushing this computer to the limit tonight.
83.1 on PFF.
Okay. And we have him as a grade of 72.2. So usually what you can do, guys, is kind of look at the grade and think, okay, they're almost worthy of being around that pick at least because of the grade in which how we factor in the grades. So if I had to guess, I'd say definitely no earlier than a 2nd round pick, possibly a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So there's Tez Johnson.
Definitely a slot guy for sure. Slot guy, but one of the strong suits is he's able to create separation pretty well, you know, especially against press and stuff like that. But definitely a little undersized and definitely pretty much a slot guy.
All right, another player that PFF said shined at the Senior Bowl was Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, tight end. Okay.
Yes.
We have Elijah Arroyo as the 6th best tight end with a 66.7 grade. We did give him a Senior Bowl bonus. That's one. So you're seeing PFF talk about him. We heard Daniel Jeremiah brag on him. That's a player that when that happens, that's when you go, okay, that dude's a real deal, right? At least at the Senior Bowl, he had a great week. So,
did you have any other tight ends that caught your eye? Because I had 3, and Arroyo was definitely one of them.
I'm trying to think. There was one at the Senior Bowl. I think it was Fannin, if I remember. Remember, we were watching the game, and Fannin, they had him playing
green, baby.
Yeah, they had him playing both Y and U from time to time, and they would have him sift over on a boot, catch the ball underneath. And the thing that I came away from the Senior Bowl with Fannin thinking is that dude can play U, and he could probably even play some H-back. He can go into the backfield and kind of give you that fullback almost look out of Bowling Green. And
might be an upgrade over our boy, you know, Musgrave.
Right. And the Packers did meet with Harold Fannin Jr., so maybe they seen the same thing, like, hey, that's a dude that might be that Josiah DeGuara, what Josiah DeGuara wasn't for us. But when it comes to Harold Fannin Jr., Tim, he was the 68th graded tight end in 22. He was the top graded tight end in 23. He was the top graded tight end in 24, albeit at Bowling Green. There's a little bit of a pipeline there, obviously, with Carl Brooks as well. So keep an eye on him.
Yep. The third one I had a good grade on, just from the Senior Bowl, not overall, is Dupree out of Bama. I don't know if you CJ Dupree. He's probably a little bit lower on the board. He could be a late round kind of value pick at tight end. 6'5", 262, kind of a big boy. I thought he looked good in the Senior Bowl too. Just put a little star next to his name.
What was his name again, Tim?
CJ Dupree, Dippre, out of Bama.
CJ Dupree out of Bama. We don't have him on the board.
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about, man. We need to get him on the board.
He caught my eye a little bit. I'm not saying, you know, he's that dude or anything, but
spell that last name for me one more time. I'm so sorry, man.
Dippre.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Dippe.
Yep. CJ Dupree out of Bama. PFF's got him at 60.6, 149th overall tight end.
How did we not have him? That's interesting. Unless he's listed at a different position, or it's not showing.
Or it's a spelling error.
Could be.
It's in as Dupree, like DU. Like
we'll look him up. We need to make sure.
Dippre. So I would check out CJ Dupree. Again, nothing like super exciting, but a guy that I think could be like late round value or mid to late round values. Be interesting to see what Shavinks thinks about him too, because he's probably got a beat on some of these tight ends. But I thought he looked pretty good on tape after the game yesterday.
Nice. In the chat, Fred McFarley says, what is a U tight end, Clayton? Okay, so let me try to explain this without a screen visualization. When you hear Y, okay, Y is a traditional tight end. Y is that guy that'll play attached. He'll play on the line of scrimmage. He might play slightly off. You can flex him out as well. Your traditional Y is like your big body tight end, okay? Typically in Matt LaFleur's offense or this style of offense, you've got a Y and then you've got a U. The U will do more of the sifting. The U will do more of the playing off or playing that wing type position, right? Like right behind the tackle. They can flex out wide too, don't get me wrong. And what we're finding in the NFL, just like the safety position, at the tight end position, these guys need to be more and more interchangeable every year that goes along. So when we say Y, think Tucker Kraft. Yep. When we say U, think Ben Sims. Think, in my opinion, Musgrave doesn't really fit a U. What Musgrave fits is a Y flex, which is a Y that plays wide receiver. So let me break it down for you. Musgrave is more of a wide receiver than he is a tight end.
Musgrave stayed on his feet.
That's right, Coach. So Tucker is a traditional tight end. You is a guy that needs to be able to block more than a pass catcher. But the way Matt loves to run in and work in boot plays, he'll run bootleg leaks where he'll do a wide zone boot right, not so much this year because we've pressed into duo and more gap scheme, but he'll fake right, boot left. That guy will chip and the U will just leak out, right? Like also think back to the play where Ben Sims got loose. It was one of his, I think it was his top play of the year. He got loose on kind of a leak wheel up the sideline. That he was playing U on that play. I remember specifically. And typically a U isn't doing that type of thing. Now, if you go to, let's go back a few years. You guys remember when Deshaun Watson, the creeper, was in Houston, allegedly, was in Houston, and Billy O'Brien, Billy Teapot, right? Billy O'Brien was the head coach. He referred to his tight ends as F and U. So his Y was an F. And they said it was more of a joke that F-U, ha, ha, ha. You know, they just kind of named them that. Now, people were referring to Musgrave as, man, that guy can be an F. That guy can be an F. And I'm going, these people don't know what the hell they're talking about because in Matt LaFleur's offense, he's got what you call an F receiver. Now, here's the thing. A tight end can play F too, but the F or the flyer in Matt LaFleur's offense, and this is according to my boy Bobby Peters, who wrote a book this thick on the Packers offense, right? The flyer or the F is typically Jaden Reed. And the reason you call him a flyer is because he may line up in the slot but end up in the Z. He may line up in the Z and end up in the slot. Well, which one do you call him? Do you wait until the end of the play or to the beginning of the play when the motion's over before the ball's snapped? And now he's going to be the slot. He's going to start in Z and end in slot. They refer to that motion guy with the jet sweeps and things as the F. So that's why in Matt LaFleur's offense, it's referred to as a Y as your traditional tight end and a U. And it's not the only offense that it's like that. It's just that's how I identify the tight ends in Matt LaFleur's offense based off the books I've read. I'm sure there's people listening to my voice right now that completely disagrees, and that's okay. We can argue for days on who's right and who's wrong. That's what I refer to as a U tight end. More of that guy that's going to be able to line up in the backfield from time to time too. We traditionally call those guys H-backs, right? Well, if he's a tight end, he's not really a back, but he's playing back, right? Well, you can call him an H-back. When we say H-back, we think fullback, right? That's what we're thinking of. So, and there's some offenses that refer to the fullback as the F. Not in this one because it's not a predominant 21 personnel, type team. So anyway, that's the U is that guy that's going to block more than catch the ball. And he's going to play a little off the line. He's going to move around a little bit, as where the F is that dude. Line him up next to the right tackle or the left tackle if you want to go strong left. Block somebody's ass into oblivion, right? Now, there's some cases you'll have the Y on the line of scrimmage, and the U will be off the line of scrimmage right next to the Y too. So, essentially, it's tight end number 2 in Matt LaFleur's offense. That's the U. I could have said that at the beginning and saved us all a lot of time. But hopefully that all makes sense.
I think that was a good explanation.
Fred said, I'm just going to say thanks for the explanation so Clayton to shut the hell up. There you go. We're good. We got it. So.
He was the best guy around.
All right, next player. Offensive tackle Anthony Belton out of NC State. I have not heard this name, Tim. Have you heard him mentioned all week?
Negative.
So let's see where we got him on our board. Anthony Belton, where are you, sir? Yeah, we've got him as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, roughly the 15th or 16th best tackle.
State, 6'6", 336. He's a hoss. He's a big hog molly. Pure tackle though, right? I don't think he's going to play interior.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
that's probably why he's a little lower on most people's boards too. A guy that improved though, right, Tim? In 22, 246 best tackle. In 23, he was 212th. In 24, he was 101st. So he got better every year according to PFF. The PFF big board had him at 187. The consensus big board had him in the top 100 coming in at 99. And Daniel Jeremiah did not have him in the top 50, but the 33rd team and Kyle Krabs had him in number 97 spot. So Anthony Belton, a guy that could be a top 100 prospect. We've got him a little lower than that, though, I think with a 113 grade, so he's going to be significantly lower.
Interesting to see that take too, because I kind of saw that too. I thought he did pretty good against Mike Green, and we've talked about Mike Green more than once on this pod. So certainly someone to keep an eye on, man. This kid out of NC State, yes, the Wolfpack.
United Bates says, I always think of the U as utility. Works for me. That's a great way of looking at it. It really is, Bates. That's essentially what they are, right? But then when I started seeing Ben Sims run that wheel and a couple other things, I'm going, I'll be damned. They're kind of using them both as a Y, but you've got to identify which one's which. But yeah, you probably is, why they refer to him as you as a utility tight end. It makes sense. It really does. So, AFM in the chat says, pay your utilities. By the way, man, it is hilarious watching people in our region complain about their power bill, Tim. We got ours. Guess what my electricity bill was this month, man?
What's that?
Just take a guess.
I don't know, like $100.
Higher.
150.
Higher.
250.
Take it on up, Tim. Higher.
Holy cow! How many bedrooms you got, man?
We got 4.
Okay, so like three and a quarter.
We cracked the 500 mark.
Holy cow, man! It must be that NASA computer you got running up there.
It probably is. Me and Mandy are constantly fighting. I want it to be about 40 degrees in the house because I run hot.
And she wants it 97 degrees in the house.
Always freezing to death. Yeah. So, yeah. AFAMs, he's going to start a GoFundMe for me to get my electricity bill paid here. Appreciate you, AFAM. He says, wowzers. So, yeah. Look, Drew D's got it figured out. 2-bedroom apartment right next to Lambeau Field, $40 for electricity, sir.
You're ready to go.
That's what I'm talking about. Too old for this. Clayton went over on his anytime minutes.
Fred McFarley, you mining Bitcoin over there, Clayton?
It's the best line of the night. Don't tell me.
If you were, you wouldn't be paying for your power bill. Bitcoin would have covered it.
You got that right. Let's keep it moving before the feds knock on the door here. Right out back, you're going to hear.
How dare you?
Interior offensive lineman, no surprise, Gray Zabel, North Dakota State. Tim, we've talked about him all week. We won't spend a whole lot of time here, man. That dude. Dog all week long.
Yep. Another Zach Tom, Melton Jenkins kind of guy, right? Stick him anywhere on that offensive line, he'll do just fine.
Yeah, definitely. Drew D says that's the problem, Tim. Bitcoin is way down. Tim, we are well aware that Bitcoin is down, are we not, sir?
Yeah, that's why you shut the hell up and buy the dip.
I love it. Yeah, Drew's like, man, it's down yet. That's how you, Tim. I'm just going to full disclosure. Private chat earlier with the guys. Tim said, Clayton, take a look at that crypto today. And what I send you back, Tim, a gif of Forrest Gump running, didn't I? When I'm on it. So, anyway, you guys invest responsibly. Don't take any.
That's right. This is not financial advice.
Don't take anything for it. They're going, you kidding me? We hear your accent. We're not taking finance. You got a $500 electricity bill. We ain't taking any advice from you. All right, interior defender. Darius Alexander. I love that they picked Darius Alexander over like your Walter Nolans and guys like that, right? This says a lot, man. There's multiple people. Darius Alexander keeps getting mentioned. So obviously that's a guy that stirred the pot there at the Senior Bowl. And again,
Darius Toledo, man.
Yeah, Toledo on the map now, right? Quinyon Mitchell, and now you got Darius Alexander soaring up boards. We have Darius Alexander as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th best defensive lineman. We have them in this order. We've got Mason Graham out of Michigan, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, Derek Harmon out of Oregon, Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, TJ Sanders out of South Carolina, Alfred Collins out of Texas, Jordan Birch out of Oregon, Aeneas Peebles out of Virginia Tech, Vernon Broughton, I think is how you name Broughton, defensive lineman out of Texas, CJ West out of Indiana, Darius Alexander out of Toledo. And then it's
Deion Walker out of Kentucky.
I was going to say, I'm trying to get to it. Omar Norman Lott, then Jamari Caldwell out of Oregon, and then Deion Walker out of Kentucky. And right below Deion Walker, you got Thor Griffith. Now, when it comes to defensive tackles that the Packers have met with, to the best of my knowledge, we've got this up to date, I believe. And shout out to Easton Butler, who's putting together a spreadsheet for everybody. So we'll be able to go back and kind of confirm everything and add others in. The Packers have met with Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. They've met with Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Ioannis Peebles out of Virginia Tech, and C.J. West out of Indiana, along with Jordan Phillips out of Maryland, Nazir Stackhouse out of Georgia, Cam Horsley out of Boston College, one of obviously Hafley's guys, Peyton Page out of Clemson, Joseph Evans out of UTSA, Chuck Smith out of Villanova, Phil Blidi, Blidi, however you say that, out of Auburn. Then you got Sean Balcom out of Delaware Valley. The point there, guys, is out of all the positions, defensive tackle is probably where the Packers have spent the most time. Defensive tackle and cornerback is where they visited with the most players so far this offseason. So
we got Ty Robinson on our board.
What position?
D tackle.
D-line. Yep, we got him. Yep, we got him, and he's got a grade of 121.3. And again, I can't sort it by overall right now, but as far as D tackles, he's roughly 1, 2, 3. I've got him 2 spots below Deion Walker is where I've got him, Tim.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, PFF 2022, 764, 23, 729, and then jumped in 24 to 125. Big improvement there. He was 203 on PFF's big board. He was 121 with the consensus big board. And then he was 93rd on the 33rd team big board, which is Kyle Crabb. So,
nice.
Yeah, interesting. All right, moving along. Next player, edge defender Shamar Stewart. This is interesting because, of course, we mentioned Daniel Jeremiah actually mocked Shamar Stewart to us at 23. Now, Kyle Crabbs in his mock 1.0 had him going number 9 to the Saints. So the fact that Kyle Crabbs sees him as a top 10 pick and Daniel Jeremiah gave him to us at 23 tells me the hype is real around Shamar Stewart. Not saying he's going to be a great player, but very smart football minds believe he's going to be really, really good, Tim. Shamar Stewart on our board is the 5th best edge defender. We've got Abdul Carter out of Penn State, James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, Mike Green out of Marshall, Mikael Williams out of Georgia, Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M in that order there. So
I'm with you there. I keep going back and forth between him and Jack Sawyer. Like I'm trying to figure out who I like better. I got edge on my list of film study this week, so it'll be fun to watch some Shamar Stewart tape and Jack Sawyer and there was the other one, Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. We got him on the board as well.
Landon Jackson. We actually have him as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think the 7th best edge defender. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Jack Sawyer has dropped on our board now. The reason being, Daniel Jeremiah had him as his 40th best prospect. That didn't hurt too much, but Kyle Crabb had him at 75, so that dropped him down significantly on our board. He now has a grade of 45.4, and before I want to say it was in the 30s if I remember correctly, so it did drop down a little bit. And again, the board's not finished, but Jack Sawyer kind of coming back down to earth a little bit on our board after everything. Moving along, linebacker Jack Kaiser. This makes me so happy.
Here's the guy.
It's a long shot that he ends up a Packer just because of the measurables, but I'm so excited to see that dude get drafted, man. He's a leader. You guys know I'm a big Notre Dame fan. He was the captain of that defense. That dude was just him and Xavier Watts, who's he's a safety in this draft this year. Just whoever drafts him, they're going to get 2 players that are just 110% committed, man. Notre Dame is one of those schools that the academics are at the forefront. You're not going to skate by off academics. You got to be all in on the university, all in on making sure you graduate, all those things that they take very, very serious. It's a no BS type of place. It's not a football vocational school. It really isn't. So when you get these guys that can make it at Notre Dame and then make it to the NFL, you usually got a pretty good combination of someone who's a smart football player, a committed football player, and they can hold their own. Think of Kyle Hamilton, right, with Baltimore. Yep. That's who comes to mind.
And think of the lineage of the Packers and the Notre Dame Irish.
That's what I love.
The history between these teams, it goes back to the beginning. So, It's always good mojo. The vibes are good when you draft a guy from Notre Dame in Green Bay, for sure.
Yeah, and it's the only reason I'm a Notre Dame fan, guys. I grew up liking the Kentucky Wildcats, growing up in Kentucky. I moved to Knoxville when I was, as soon as I graduated high school, I pieced out and went went away from our town and went just buried myself in the city of Knoxville where nobody knew me and just hid for a little bit. You know, it was kind of the deal. And it was when I became a Packer fan down there, and then I learned Curly Lambeau went to Notre Dame. Then I got a DVD set on Notre Dame. I fell in love. That's why I'm a Notre Dame fan, is because of Curly Lambeau and the Green Bay Packers. So it is so cool. I'm glad you mentioned that, Tim, that when players like Paul Hornung obviously played at Notre Dame, right, ends up going to the Packers. When we traded for Deshaun Kaiser, I got so excited, man.
Oh, God, I remember that. And
that was he a train wreck or what? It was just so.
But we were fired up. We're like, go Irish.
Oh, you know me. I was like, this is the guy who's going to take over. He's going to be the future if Aaron doesn't work out. What the hell am I talking about?
He was the best guy around.
Oh, he was not. So Jack Kaiser, where does he fall on our linebacker board? He is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, 6th, 7th best linebacker in the draft. Okay. PFF grading 23. He was the 4th highest graded linebacker. He dropped to 56 this year. He did get a Senior Bowl bonus from Daniel Jeremiah. So the fact that PFF acknowledges him, actually, it wasn't from Daniel Jeremiah. He was voted the top linebacker by his peers, is what it was on practice that week. So that's one of the reasons why he got the bonus there. So our linebackers go in this order, Tim. We got Jihad Campbell out of Alabama as our top linebacker. Then we got Carson Schweisinger as our second best linebacker. Demetrius Knight Jr. as our third. Chris Paul Jr. fourth. Jay Higgins, fifth out of Iowa. Danny Stutson out of Oklahoma. And then Jack Kaiser. Then behind them, we've got Jalen Walker out of Indiana. Now, keep in mind the other linebacker out of Georgia, we went ahead and moved him to edge defender. And everybody's different on this, but we went ahead and moved, what's his name? Jalen Walker with an O. It's hilarious. Jalen Walker, we moved him to edge defender, and he now has a grade of 36.1. It looked like Daniel Jeremiah had him listed as an edge, and I think Kyle Krabs had him listed as an edge as well, so I just went ahead and shifted to that side. And it sounds like he could potentially be a top 10 pick. So, there's more value in edge than there is linebacker. So anything you want to add to the linebacker talk there?
Yeah. Who the hell's going to coach him? That's all my mind's on right now since we lost Coach Camp. Who's going to be the promotion or who's going to, be in for an interview. It'll be interesting to see how things shake up, with our linebacker coach.
Yeah, it is, man.
Hopefully they don't bring Joe Barry back to coach linebackers.
I don't think that's going to happen, Tim. I could be wrong. But could you imagine if they announced that Joe Barry was our linebacker coach?
Don't put that name in my mouth right there.
I would not be surprised if Packer fans embraced it. We're like, yeah, he actually is a good linebacker coach. That would just crack me up after everybody was raking him over the coals. Let's do a poll question right now. Do you guys approve of Joe Barry being the linebacker coach? Let's don't do that. Cornerback, Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. So that was a name that kind of popped here. Let's see where we have him in our cornerback rankings. Dorian Strong, pretty far down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Roughly 17th best corner, Tim. We got him right above Upton Stout out of Western Kentucky and right below Jacob Parrish in about the 17th spot there. So
it makes sense. I think Stout might be a better corner, but the size is really gonna kill him in the draft. Dorian Strong's a little bit taller. 6'1", 185,
There you go. So Dorian Strong seemed to pop. They said one-on-one drills are inherently designed to favor the wide receivers over defensive backs, but Strong still showed some flashes of brilliance. He does an excellent job in press man coverage, which is unsurprising considering how he performed with the Hokies since 2023. His 87.0 grade in single coverage is in the 96th percentile among FBS corners.
Hello.
So, yeah, PFF very, very high on him, obviously. So
we got Fred McFarley checking in with the linebacker coach. He said he'd rather we hire Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry, hey boy. Hearing AJ Hawk and Pat McAfee joke about him, boys. If you don't know, pray to sweet baby Jesus. Thank sweet baby Jesus. You don't know why they're always joking about him. Lord have mercy. Anyway, Chuck in the chat says, question of the night, Pizza Hut or Domino's? This is what I'm talking about. Take a break.
In the 90s, it's Pizza Hut. Today, it's Domino's.
This this is the way I answer this question, Chuck. And people are going, "Oh God, Clayton's already taking it too serious." That's how my mind works. So it's like, if you could only pick one for the rest of your life, is it Pizza Hut or Domino's? Domino's recently, Tim, have upped their game, big times. With the they done some things with like, I don't know, different products where they put like Parmesan baked into the crust on the outside, like these. They had like a buffalo chicken thing that was really good. It was like basically like a cheese knot with buffalo chicken. It was really good.
Yep.
But for me, man, I'm just telling you right now, Pizza Hut stuffed crust pizza is my jam. I can't say no to it. Like, if it's in the house, right here. If it's in the house, I'm protecting that like Rasheed Walker on a blind side, bro. There ain't nobody getting that stuffed crust pizza. That is mine. We'll probably do that when we're in Green Bay at least one night. I'll have a stuffed crust pizza up there, man. And I'll sleep with it. It'll be on my chest in the bed. Making sure Emilio don't get it. So, what about you, man? Pizza Hut or Domino's?
I'm just trying to find that picture of you cuddling up with your stuffed crust pizza. I thought we had that photo somewhere, didn't we?
No. Oh no.
Where was that?
I figured you were talking about this one right here, man.
That's right. You making the order. This is you snuggling up with it.
I ain't in there. I ain't grinding on the box, Tim. Give me a break here. Jeez, Pete. Yeah, for me, it's Pizza Hut, though. Tim, you didn't answer.
I did. I said if it was the 1990s, I'd say Pizza Hut. But
it's not the 90s.
But it's not the 90s, so I got to go with Domino's. I think Domino's has got the edge right now. But to be honest, I don't eat either of those very often. I like the homemade or the deli fresh pizza or one of the local haunts here in Green Bay. We got some good tavern style, Wisconsin style pizza that I like.
I'm trying to think of what the place was. We went and had a Chicago style pizza in Green Bay back in like 2005. They're probably not open anymore. I love Chicago style pizza. I think I'm in the minority with this, but I want that thing to weigh 8 pounds. You know what I mean? Like I just you know what I'm talking about? Just thick, full of just cheese and meat, sauce on top. Are you a big Chicago style or no? Man?
No, I can't. If I got to use a fork and a knife, I can't do it.
It ain't pizza, it's pie. What are we talking about here?
Thick.
All right. Last position. We return to our normally scheduled program here. Safety Billy Bowman Jr. Don't remember hearing this name. Let's see where we got him amongst the safeties. Billy Bowman Jr. So we got Malachi Starks 1, Xavier Watts 2, Nick Emenware out of South Carolina 3, Andrew Makuba 4, and Kevin Winston Jr. 5th. So we got Billy Bowman 6, 7, 8, 9th. He's in the 9 spot, Tim, out of Oklahoma. And he was at the Senior Bowl, obviously. 124.3 grade on him. So probably middle of the draft, I would imagine, is where you kind of expect him. They're saying day 3 pick, so probably closer to the 5th or 6th round. What do you think about safety here? Anybody pop to you, and you got anything to add here to Billy?
I'll tell you what, Billy Bowman Jr., that's an Oklahoma name right there if I ever heard one. Love that, man. I don't know if he's going to sell me a cattle trailer or if he's going to play some slot corner for us. But, no, 5'10", 200, right? Played a great deal in the slot. I mean, he might be, like Prince is saying here, that's a pretty small safety, but, he could pop in the slot and provide depth. Like I've said before that, we talk about corner being a need, which I think it is for sure. We may be able to find one of those guys as a slot and being a safety, a convert, kind of like we did with Bullard.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, like you said, he is small, 5'9", right? 5'9", 198. Drew D said a lot of interceptions were more opportunistic than actually making a play. And I'm glad you made that, that specification there, Drew, because it's important to understand that. Like, if a quarterback just throws the ball right to the DB, they didn't do nothing special. I want to know that, because you'll look at the interception numbers and go, man, he had a great year. But then you look at Xavier McKinney's interceptions this year, Tim, him baiting them and getting back and then playing a too high, playing the deep half in a cover 2 defense and getting between the hashes to pick the ball off is just, those are you go, whoa, real deal. But if he's just sitting back there and he gets, a couple picks in one game, it looks like he had a great game and the quarterback just had a brain fart and threw it right to him. That's a little bit different,
So true. So true.
All right. So I think that's it, man. We got them all. So again, those are just kind of some of the players that PFF thought had a good week there at the Senior Bowl. And we're at the hour 14-minute mark. Tim, is there anything else you want to hit on before we wrap up here, man? Anything at all on the forefront of your mind? Anything you want to talk about moving forward? Maybe a prospect or a position group we haven't hit on? I can put the board back up here for us too.
Jaden Higgins is the man. That's all. That's all I got to say. Nothing new.
Let's take a quick look at the wide receivers since you brought it up. We'll end with this. We got Tetero McMillan as the top receiver with a 13.6 grade. Then Emeka Egbuka at Ohio State with a 30.1. Luther Burden with a 31.7. So those two, Egbuka and Burden, are in the same tier. Then it drops off significantly to Matthew Golden at a 43. Trey Harris with a 43. So him and Matthew Golden have the same exact grade. That's interesting, seeing that there's like 8 qualifiers in this. Xavier Restrepo is right behind Trey Harris with a 55.9. Then we got Jaden Higgins with a 60.4. Here's what's interesting. All those receivers we just read off, the top receiver on our board that the Packers met with is Jaden Higgins. Then they met with Jalen Royals, which you said you like Jalen Royals as well, right? Yep. And then we got Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. So it's pretty cool that Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel are both kind of on the Packers' radar right now. That's really, really interesting. So
I really like Noel. Like, I've always said I'm not a fan of the sub 6 foot tall receivers, but I like Luther Burden out of Mizzou. He's good too for a guy under 6 feet. And then of course Restrepo is he played pretty well. He's another shorter tier kind of receiver, or not shorter tier, but shorter in stature. But yeah, I'm fully psyched that the Packers have Higgins on the radar. And yeah, Jalen Royals out of Utah State is someone that I think, we cannot afford to sleep on. And I'm glad the Pack is keeping an eye on him for sure.
Yeah, I just love the fact that we were watching the Senior Bowl live, and the first touchdown score was Jaden Higgins on a halfback pass. I was like, of course it was Jaden Higgins. We talked about him all week. So he scored.
And wasn't it Ollie Gordon that threw him?
I think it might have been. I can't remember. It might have been. Yeah. So, yeah, Jaden Higgins, 86th and 22. Then he jumps to 28th and 23. Then he jumps all the way to 4th this year. These are PFF grade rankings for the wide receiver position. Then the PFF big board had him at 54, right? The consensus big board had him at 81. So if you took those two numbers, you'd say, probably in the 70 range is his spot, right? If you average those out. Daniel Jeremiah has him outside of the top 50. We don't know how far outside of the top 50. He may be 51, But Kyle Kraft has him in the 79 spot. Now, him having a 60.4 grade, obviously, I feel like if you're going to take Jaden Higgins, if you're the Packers, you're probably going to take him in the second round. That's the spot there. I don't see him being a first-round pick.
Neither do I.
Second. And then when you look up, Tim, you go, man, there's precedent. Goody and the Packers, they've made a killing. They made a living off of taking receivers in the second round. Think about all the great receivers they took in the second round.
Yep.
Like Devontae Adams, right? Jordy Nelson. Was Greg Jennings? I think Greg Jennings might have been.
Jennings was a second round too, wasn't he?
He was. I think he might have been. Could be wrong. Randall Cobb was he a first or a second? I think he was a first. Let's see here. Randall Cobb, man, that feels like a lifetime ago. Randall Cobb, draft pick. Randall Cobb was
third?
Round 2. 64.
Second. So another second round. There you go.
Pick 64. He was the last pick of the second round. Man, what a steal that was. Pretty much a third round pick there with the 64th pick. And I'm
with you though, Clay. He's probably not going first round. At least I hope he's not, because there's no way we're taking a receiver in the first round. And I don't think he makes it to the third round. So it's like you got to pull the trigger in the second round if you're serious about him.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep.
All right, man. Let's wrap it up here with a comment. Chris N says, Clayton and Tim, I want to thank you guys for always being here with excellent content. The off season is hard, and it's a real escape from the everyday trials and tribulations. So appreciate it. Chris, thank you, man. I say this all the time when people post something like that, or they send us a message on email or text or in the Patreon group. Please, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, man. You guys are the most important part of what we do. Like, again, we want to create a show where it's the Packer fans show, where we come together as fans and try to filter out the knuckleheads, get the people out of here that just want to complain, rant, rave, constantly just bitch and moan, all that stuff. And let's get the fans together that want to truly try to understand the game. Not that we understand it enough to teach it or any we're going to learn together. We're all going to go to the tape. We're going to watch the tape. We're going to go through the draft process where we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So far, we got a 10-step qualifier for our draft board. And there's going to be 3 more elements at it. So it's going to end up being a 13-step draft board, essentially, right? We do all this to try to understand the game at a little bit different level. And the fact that you guys are interested in contributing, whether it's in the Patreon group with the questions, whether it's in here with the regular chat or the super chats, whatever, like, you guys make this thing go round, man. And we appreciate y'all way more than you know. So thank you for the kind words, though. It's always awkward responding to something like that because it's like if you acknowledge it, you're going, yeah, we're doing good. Please don't take it that way. I just want you to know we appreciate y'all more than you know. So,
we appreciate the appreciation. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And again, I'm so bad at that stuff. Horrible at it. I'm the guy that if I get a compliment, I'm just like, get the hell away from me. I don't want to talk. Like, let's talk about something else. It just, I'm really, Mandy gets on me about it all the time. So, and 2-0 for this sums it up. He says, we can all agree on one thing here. This show sucks. Completely agree. So, with that being said, guys, we're out. We will be back tomorrow morning. Good morning, Lambo. If Tim's available, he'll be in here with me. If not, I'll be flying solo. Who knows? Jacob may slide in here too. It depends on how late he's out dancing tonight. We'll see.
I don't know. I think he's got the late shift at the Oval tonight.
I think he does. I love that we're referring to it as the Oval now. It's just absolutely awesome. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I see all the comments. Thank you guys so much. You're awesome. We really appreciate you. We'll see you in the morning. Good morning, Lambo. Again, David James, reach out to me. Shoot me a text, 865-658-5824. We need to get you that autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. Again, man, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great night. Y'all stay warm.
And we go.
Bye, guys.